Pete Hegseth called a declaration of vengeance.
The U.S. launching retaliatory strikes in Syria in response to last weekend's killing of 3 Americans. The U.S. hit more than 70 sites targeting ISIS fighters, infrastructure, and weapons sites. 2 Iowa National Guard members and a U.S. civilian interpreter were killed last Saturday. They were in eastern Syria as part of a coalition fighting ISIS.
Fox's Chanley Painter, Jordan, confirming today that its Air Force took part in strikes. The Department of Justice's efforts to release Jeffrey Epstein files on Friday drawing fire for website glitches, missing documents, and redactions.
The documents are not labeled with any great detail. There are plenty of photographs, but many have no names, dates, or location, and context is really empty in some of them. Some of the photos are of mature content. Now, there are several photos of former President Bill Clinton within the first few documents. He's recognizable, unlike many others in many photos, but the photos of Clinton don't have any context. Now, there are some photos with Clinton and other faces blacked out. DOJ says that is to protect any potential victims. One of the photos shows the Rolling Stones' Mick Jagger sitting around a table, but again, no context is provided.
Fox's David Spunt. The Epstein Files Transparency Act passed in November required the government to release those files within 30 days. The Department of Homeland Security says that more than 2.5 million illegal immigrants have left the U.S. since President Trump returned to office this year. In a year-end report, DHS claiming that illegal border crossings plunged 93% year over year. Fentanyl trafficking was cut in half, and hundreds of thousands of criminal illegal immigrants were either arrested or deported. America is listening to Fox News.
Good morning. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Gosh, another holiday week is here. We've got Dwayne Stein with us this hour. I was mentioning to Chris, I said, well, this will be a little bit different show because it's kind of our end of year one. We're just telling you, we're running best of next weekend that he's going to select content from. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Dwayne Stein. Hey, Dwayne, welcome to the show this hour.
Good to be with you, sir.
How are things going?
Man, it's good. It's good.
You know, we're about to put 2025 behind us.
We are. And I tell you, overall, I think from a lending standpoint, from a loan standpoint, I think overall it was positive, much more positive than 2024, which wouldn't have taken much, right? But I like the trends. I think what we're seeing with rates finally, I think we're starting to trend, with rates being at the lowest 90-day average in 3 years, right? I think that is a win from that standpoint. And I think folks, pent-up demand is a real thing as well, Gregory. And I think folks are like, you know what? Hey, maybe home buying is a good thing. Now, we've got to, what do we talk about all the time? It's an affordability thing, right? So what you can afford, what you're willing to pay, two different things. But we got to find out how much can you pay. And so I think people are learning. And one of the things this time of year always brings about too, Gregory, is budgets, Christmas, right? Where you at budget-wise? Or do you just go nuts and deal with it later? So, but I think what we're seeing from on the home side and the lending side is we saw 2025 to be pretty positive. It's ending on a strong note, and I expect some more great things as we head into 2026.
Well, from a standpoint, when we talk about affordability and this is our first conversation since the Fed made that quarter point cut. Signaled, I believe, maybe one for next year to none.
Yeah.
And not more than that. With that said, Chairman Powell will not be Chairman Powell of the Fed when we have our end-of-year discussion in 2026.
Right.
So how was the impact of this last quarter point that you saw in rates and your thoughts going to next year?
It had zero effect on mortgage rates, very minimal. But where we saw the biggest effect was when CPI came out this past week. When that came in a lot lower.
Good numbers there.
Yeah, and that's where we saw rates come in. I mean, now I think with when the Fed speaks now, I think it's more about not even the cuts or are they going to cut or not cut. That stuff's so baked in now, Gregory. It's more about what's said down the road, what's the future. And the good news was Powell said, hey, there is a labor market problem. Well, duh, right? And, but we're still not sure about inflation. Well, now inflation came in at a 2.7 on a 3.1 expected. So that was a good thing, and we saw that kind of help out and help rates rally Thursday for sure. No doubt about it.
And do you think the quarter point they give us sometime probably in first quarter makes much difference?
No, I got in my show earlier, I got a question saying, hey, where do you think rates are going to be this spring, right? And I think we're probably going to be within this a quarter of where we're at right now. I don't think we're going to be trending upward, right? But I don't think we're not at the top of the roller coaster where things are just going to bottom out. We're going to have still, like we've been seeing, some ebbs and flows. I would like to say that the 6.25 we're at today is the top of where we're going to be going forward. I don't know that, but I could see us operating throughout 2026 in this range of 5.99 to 6.25. I really can. Maybe a 5.875 here or there. That I could really see that sort of being a range. It's not going to be 4.5%, right? So I think we'll see a little bit lower, but there's a lot we've got to get through, right, Gregory? I mean, my biggest concern, what's concerning me is how does the market react? And this, you may know this, would definitely more than I. Like, what if these tariffs have to go back, whatever that whole thing is, right? Like, I don't know what is the reaction there to the market, and how does that affect treasuries? I mean, does it help? Do people go, hey, I don't know how that's going to affect if all of a sudden they go, We got to give back all this money. That's my big thing on the Supreme Court. That's kind of weighing on me. That I that's that unknown out there, Gregory. That you don't know what's going to happen there, and is that something that sets everything off?
I actually, behind the scenes, where I have confidence that money's not going to be given back.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean the court is completely on board with how it's done. I believe that they already have a game plan of how they would move forward with that, and I would think the court would give guidance based upon law of what they need to tweak in going forward on that. If you're waiting for Congress to do something on tariffs, well, that won't be after midterms, and a bunch more seats have to be won on the Republican side from that.
Yeah.
So I'm not even trying to predict there, but I think they do have a path. Subject to the court's decision, they will make adjustments, and I think the tariffs continue.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing hanging up is, there's starting to be a lot more talk about, and I think the government shutdown hurt on the rate side, because we've gotten some of this data that came out, instead of it being, it's 2 months, so now it's, if we would have been getting this October and November data at the time when it happened, I think there would have been more momentum with the rates, and I actually think we would have been a little bit lower than where we are right now. So then if we come back, they're talking about now the biggest thing that held it up is still on there with the affordability, all that stuff. Or are we going to go into another government shutdown? So that's why when we start getting into rates where it's going to go, and you know this as much as I do, Gregory, I mean, these have just been such unique times over the last couple years. I mean, for years you just came in and rates were what they were. Now everything is just under a microscope, and there's so many things that have an effect on, Ukraine and Russia. Hey, does that have an effect if that stops? What is those, so many things. But man, if we go into another government shutdown, I think that could stall any momentum that we've got right now. So those are the things that I look at going forward when we start seeing there's just so many intangibles that it's impossible to predict the rate market.
So from a consumer standpoint, and you kind of deal in two areas, refis and new home purchases. What's the vibe on the consumer out there that you're seeing?
Refinances are definitely up. I think people are strapped. I think they have hung on as long as they possibly can, especially those who bought in 20 and 21, even though they've got lower rates. But let's take those that bought in 22 and 23. They're not necessarily refinancing because they're rate from a rate term refinance to get a lower rate. A lot of it is they're refinancing and taking advantage of their equity to pay off debt. A lot of cash out refinances that we're doing right now, Gregory, are saving people $500. I've got one that we're going to, $1,800. I've got another one that's $900. We're closing next week. So it's life changing. So that has a lot more to do. $900 a month in savings is a lot more to do than a number on a piece of paper. When it comes to the home buying side, yeah, I think home buyers they're savvy. They want what they want. They want turnkey, Gregory. I don't think people are the fixer-uppers. There's a lot of deals that are written up, and a lot of deals, Gregory, are falling through at the inspection part of the process, which is okay. A lot of people go, these inspections. Well, look, that's a contingency that, again, at Mortgage Gumbo, we always say we recommend, we don't require, but heck, spend $600. You're about to drop a couple $100,000. Spend $600 to find out what is going on. And so we're finding a lot of that because what home buyers want, Gregory, is they want turnkey. If they're going to pay a premium, they want turnkey, not necessarily a fix-it-up or see the forest through the trees. Okay, I'll rip out this carpet and do that later on. So I think that's what we're seeing. But it's home demand is trending in a positive direction, no doubt about it, for sure.
So and I was reading some where it looked like sellers are unhappy because they're really not wanting to see their values go down. I was reading where some people are pulling off the market because they can't get their price. But they're not willing to cut, so they don't want to sell if they've got to reduce. Is that what you're seeing?
It's called delisting. Absolutely. It's up big time. Big time. Delistings are up tremendously. And because at the end of the day, Gregory, let's face it, and this kind of comes back to something we talk about on your show all the time, the locked-in effect. Meaning, and it's not a bad thing, hey, I've got 2.5%, I'm locked into this house. Well, that's not that bad, right? You know what I'm saying? But that person is also, maybe they want to sell, don't have to sell, and they are more willing to delist than to lower their price, Gregory. And that is something that we are seeing quite a bit, as people will just take it off of the market. And that's especially popular this time of year as well. But, yeah, they'll take it off the market without a doubt.
Well, they're not in a must-sell situation. They're probably wanting to sell. Maybe it's a surplus property they have. Right. Or they don't have to move. They would like to and buy, but it's kind of a two-part thing. They're wanting to get their price, but they're also wanting to get their price, have the rates to move to another property they have their eye on.
Or it's rentals, Gregory.
Selling rentals. Okay.
Yeah, maybe or maybe that house, maybe they bought another property and the lease is up on this property. Right? And instead of them re-signing a lease, they like, hey, let's see if we could sell it. And, maybe they've got 4% or 3.5% on it. So they're like, hey, let's take advantage and try to sell it. And then they go, you know what? All right, if we're not going to get it right now, let's just do another 1-year lease on it. I think that's what we're running. So like we're saying, it kind of comes back to that. I don't have to sell. They're not selling it because they need that money to move into another house. So sellers are it's kind of crazy because for the first time in my career, in my opinion, Gregory, it's neither a buy, like everybody wants to try to say, hey, is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? And I think it's as much equal opportunity as it's ever been in the mortgage industry right now.
So you could say it's neither or it's both. So it's both.
I would say it's both. Yeah. I would say because I think if Gregory's selling his house and it's fairly priced, Dwayne is willing to give Gregory what he's got if it's fairly priced, if I can move into it. Right? Not if John is trying to sell his house because he missed out in 2021 and is asking way too much. Dwayne's just not going to pay that. So, and what I find is the sellers, when you give them what they're asking, that's where they're more willing to do the concessions. They're more willing to offer that buy down to give you that relief for a year on the rate.
Kind of negotiate
a lot of buyers,
trade-off.
Gregory,
go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. And it's such an important point, is as a buyer, you don't know, the seller doesn't advertise what their bottom line is. If I'm selling my house for $300,000, I'm not letting, you could go online and see, hey, he bought it in 2009 for 140,000. Well, you don't know if I've refinanced it. You don't know what my situation. So you don't know what that bottom line is. And what I have to tell so many buyers, Gregory, now with all the information that's out there, I try to protect them from themselves because they'll say that exactly. Oh, they sold it for $300,000. They bought it in 2014 for $180,000. So we're going to offer them, $220,000. I'm like, are you going to sell it for more down the road when you want to? Well, yeah. Well, it's a wealth building tool. So let's be more fair and educate them more on every 10,000 is only $50 and stuff like that. So I think when people are making the offers, the folks that go in and give that seller, because you don't know what the seller's bottom line is. You don't know what is it a divorce? Is it, who knows? Did they have to pay kids in jail? I mean, God knows. I mean, I see everything. So are they having to sell that house? The person who, because Gregory, if I'm asking $300,000 for my house, and you go, well, I think it's only worth $270,000, so I'm offering $270,000. All right, well, you're going to lose that deal, number one. But give them $300,000, you're still going to get an appraisal. And that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing. And that's why I think it sort of goes both ways. That educated home buyer who truly gets pre-approved, Gregory, and doesn't fly by the seat of their pants and is confident and knows with their budget, knows, all right, this is what I can afford. They've digested that, right? They're not running some online calculator that tells them $300,000 and they got 3.9 in there as a teaser rate and don't understand flood insurance, taxes, insurance, homeowner association dues. So that person that's pre-approved understands they can give that seller what they're asking, knowing, and I've learned this from you, what are my outs? Right? Well, now my outs are I get an inspection report. Well, maybe I can negotiate a little bit there. Or I get an appraisal. Nobody's buying Dwayne's house if he's asking $300,000 and it appraises for $270,000. Nobody's going, okay, cool. At least if they're doing financing. Because I can only finance what it appraises for. So that's the biggest thing, but that's also why I think right now it's at a stalemate. Now, I don't want to say a stalemate. That sounds bad because it's not a stalemate. I think buyers want what they want, and sellers are willing to hold out. I mean, days on market, I know I'm rambling here, but the facts are what they are. Houses now, Gregory, they're up 4 days year over year on market across the country. So the average days on market's at 36. This same time last year was 32.
Not much change.
And then if we start getting in, so if we start getting into locally, I could show you what Lakeview's is compared to this. Then we could even dial in home price. And 36 is a low number when you start looking at local markets. I see a lot of 70, 80, 90. So when you go in and go, hey, this house has been on the market for 36 days, I'm going to cut it by $50,000. That's why you're seeing the delistings like you brought up. That's why you're seeing the sellers who are unhappy.
In some instance, they're testing the market, saying, hey, if I get this,
Absolutely.
I'll sell it. If I can't, I'm going to keep it. On the buyer's side, and I'll share, I looked at some property, I don't know, probably 2 months ago, made an offer, they countered, and I made a low offer because I was testing to see where they're at. They didn't move off the price, but a few thousand. So I bumped up my next one, and I thought I leaped some, and they only countered a few more thousand off. So I went and investigated, looked at the property more, kind of deep dive where I'm at. And actually I figured out I was happier with my previous offer. So I told the realtor, I said, I'm good. Yeah. Revisit it maybe someday. But I wanted to see where they're at. And they obviously and confident that by how they responded, they're confident at where they're at. And I'm okay with that. I guess I was more of looking for a bargain
Strike
that wasn't there.
Right? Dip your toe in the water and see. And that happens. And that's okay. That's okay. But that's not okay for somebody who, hey, if their lease is up and their kids are going to be out of school, right? Stuff like that. So it just depends on where you're at in the market. But, Gregory, also, you know what's crazy? 1 out of 5 deals, 1 out of 5 houses are still selling above list price. 18% is the actual number. I like round numbers. So 20% of homes are still selling above list.
How does that, when you tell me that, does that mean the appraisals are coming in like that, or you just got somebody willing to, I want that property, I'll pay that few grand more?
Yeah, they'll pay over. Because from a lending standpoint, we can only lend what it appraises for.
So they've got the money to do that as well, which that's not a big part of the market, but it is part of the market. And are we still going on what we know from historicals that if you've got a solid property there, good decision, even if you're paying higher, are we probably going to be higher in value in 5 years?
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident you're going to be higher unless you make some ridiculous offer, but just say within range of what the appraisal is 10 years out, you're going to be higher in value.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the key point is kind of that 5 year.
Yeah. And the cumulative with their projecting right now is over the next 5 years. Cumulatively, you should be up over 20%. That's a pretty good return when you're talking about $300,000.
And we're never and to for supply to get up to demand is what might alter that, and I don't think we catch up in 5 years with demand for housing.
No, I just can't see new home sales. I mean, that would take the construction market just blowing and going, and I just don't see that. I think it'll increase, but I do not see it being able to catch up. Like I said, we see people now who are now just like, all right, you know what? The heck with renting. I'm ready to buy. It's just a matter of folks getting their heads around, well, this is what it was like back in 2019. You know, here's how much home you could have afforded back then compared to now. So that's the biggest thing, is having to try and overcome that in the midst of people thinking, hey, I need 20%. And so trying to work through those things. But pent-up demand's real, and I think what we're seeing is I have no doubt that when I come on your show and we're saying, hey, 30 years at 5.99, it's going to be an absolute free-for-all everywhere.
And what is it now?
6.25.
Well, I was reading, I was going to save this for after the break, but I'll just tell you, I was reading from chief economist of First Trust, Brian Westbury. He said, the Fed's predicting 1 quarter point next year. He thinks it'll be 2. And we know Fed Powell, the chairman, Powell, is on his way out mid-yearish or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, so when they announced the new guy, so is Powell going to stay through May when his contract ends? Is he going to, I mean, like, hey, here's the new head coach, but you can stay and still coach the team. But this guy, like, what effect will that have? Will we see a bump there?
Yeah, I have no idea. It'd be kind of, I'm surprised he stayed in because he knows he's out. The president doesn't care for him, even though the president's the one that picked him originally. Like, Jeez, I don't want to be where I'm not wanted kind of thing. Hey, there's some music. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to be back with more from Dwayne Stein. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Would this be your Social Security, your 401k, pension, lump sum, your debt, student debt, credit cards?
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years. Sometimes I'll pull up to the side of the road and just listen.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Gumbo Nation, you did it again. Thank you. 10 plus years on air, Mortgage Gumbo Dadcam has grown because of your trust in me as your local preferred lender with all your home loan needs. My recent recognition as a national top lender is awesome, but being your local lender is what matters to me and why I'm so thankful. I promise to continue to earn your trust in making your needs my priority. Visit MortgageGumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can hear the Ask Gregory podcast, where you'll find episodes based on a financial topic. So if you're looking for help on a specific situation, there's a good chance you'll find it on the Ask Gregory podcast, including episodes on 401ks, taxes, stocks, Social Security, gold, and whether or not you should buy an RV. Hear the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Less than half of Americans have drawn up a will. If you don't have one, you know you need to get one. But what if you do have a will? Is it up to date? Has anyone in your family been married, divorced, or passed away? Have any new family members been born or adopted? Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me and we'll make you a plan or update your existing plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
Oh, Rover, you have fleas again? Prevent fleas and ticks from setting up shop in your backyard. Those bloodsuckers can bite up to 400 times a day and carry nasty diseases like typhus and tapeworms. Give Rover some relief and contact Mosquito Joe. Their mosquito control services also kill and prevent fleas and ticks. Let Mosquito Joe be your first line of defense against those blood-sucking pests. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Fox News, I'm Angelo Bavaro. President Trump touting economic indicators at a rally on Friday ahead of the midterms.
North Carolina was the second stop of his domestic tour to sell his economic message. The state will see a crucial Senate race to succeed retiring Republican Senator Tom Tillis. Obviously, the president is trying to keep that seat in the GOP's hands, so he's trying to convince voters his economic approach is working and they'll reap the bulk of the benefits next year.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. The U.S. striking dozens of ISIS targets yesterday.
The U.S. launching retaliatory strikes in Syria in response to last weekend's killing of 3 Americans. The U.S. hit more than 70 sites targeting ISIS fighters, infrastructure, and weapons sites.
Fox's Chanley Painter, no word yet on how many people were killed in those strikes. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey, y'all. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. Gosh, we've been doing this, I guess, 15 and a half years at this point. One of the neat things we do is we do stream the show live. One of the most important places to catch it is on our YouTube channel. So why don't you go over there, check it out. If you got your phone handy or sitting at a laptop, either method there, but jump onto our YouTube channel. And is there any particular path, Chris, to that? No, just put in your search Gregory Ricks there, and also Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, and become a part of that audience. And of course you can catch the replay as well, but that's just becoming, YouTube's a pretty big deal. And if you haven't connected with it, do so. We've got a lot of initiatives we're working on next year to be able to bring you more content when you want it, when you're ready for it, when you have time for it. We're all going to be doing our show on Saturdays as usual, but we are pushing out more content, more educational events, and we're adding some new things. We're doing some educational courses this year. And I know somewhere in the first quarter, tentatively, we're probably going to have an educational event over in the Gulfport area. And then within a week or two after that, we're going to roll out one in the Mandeville area as well. We tentatively have got agreements and locking that down. And, we've been doing the educational events in Metairie for the past couple years, and we'll probably expand upon what we're doing that. But what I'm trying to do is meet demand for the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and for the North Shore of the New Orleans region there, Mandeville, Covington, Madisonville, such as that, and get these educational events. And I was going through the course the other day that we're wanting to roll out, and it's kind of I'm just telling you, I've been in this business for decades, I've been around long in the tooth here doing that, and it's a good thing. And we've got a great team of vibrant people. And I was just looking at the course that's put together. I'm like, wow, this is ridiculous content that we're going to be putting out. So we'll be telling you more about that in the coming weeks and the big push, and be sending out emails. If you're looking for information about that in that area, just reach out to us and we'll clue you in. But we've been getting a lot of requests. Gregory, you're not helping us out. We want some of these events. We want some of those courses taught in our area. Reach out to us, info@GregoryRicks.com, and get on our notification list for when it starts. If you're kind of like, yeah, I want to be there. And we're not charging. It's not a dinner thing or whatever, but it's typically probably going to be on a Thursday evening in your area, and it's going to last about an hour and a half. And we're not charging a fee for it, but we're going to do that. And it's not going to be a one-off. We're going to be continuing that in various forms and topics as well. So reach out to us, give us a shout out if you'd like to know more about it. info@GregoryRicks.com is the email, and you can call the office 504-832-9200. Okay, we've got Dwayne Stein with us still this first hour of Winning at Life today. So what do you think of that idea, Dwayne? I think the consumers need more content, more education, so they have more to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And any kind of series that like you're putting together there, and I do the same, whether it's going out and talking to realtors and just trying to promote and just explain, because there is so much information out there, trying to get in folks' hands what's true versus what's not, or what's really making it understandable. And so I think what you do and what you've done for years is amazing on bringing it directly to the consumer, kind of like we do here every Saturday as well, right? So anything that you could do to do that, I know that's something I work on all the time, and I think that's as important as anything. I mean, is showing people, and not just saying it, but showing them exactly, hey, here's some paths and here's some things to consider.
Looking at Brian West Barry's thoughts, because when we went to break, you were talking about the Fed chair. Is it going to change? Is Powell going to wait around? And Brian Westbury kind of refers to, he believes the path of M2, which is the money supply, is more important than the actual level of interest rates. And last week, the Fed restarted quantitative easing, which should boost M2 in the months ahead. And he goes on to say, in terms of President Trump's pick for Fed chair, what we'd like to know is what the contenders think about reversing the regime of abundant reserves and the Fed paying the banks interest on reserves. These policies were unnecessary for the Fed for nearly its first 100 years, but its current leaders are adamant about keeping them after they were implemented in the great financial crisis of 08-09. A crisis these new policies did nothing to stop or fix. Restarted quantitative easing seems like a shot across the bow to anyone who wants to alter course and return to a scarce reserve system. Oh my gosh, that's a deep dive right there on what he's looking at. And what I think we do need to look at going forward and just not what's about this next year, but how can things look better the next decade, the next 20 years out. And one thing about this president, I don't think he gives a crap about polling numbers.
No.
I know he doesn't care about getting reelected because he can't, and that's clarity. I know some put out there, oh, well, he's going to find a way to stay. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
We have a constitution, and they would remove him from office. So that's some wish. That's just nonsense. But what he's working on is how, from my standpoint, what I believe, what I see is his focus is how to make things better, how to fix things. And what the considerations of the Fed chair going forward, I think, should be a longer term view about fixing things, because all this stuff, all the problems in the past, and we have a country that's going to be at 40 trillion in debt, and how do we get from under that? I have no idea, but I think that's also why the M2 has to increase because of that debt. Your thought?
Yeah, I think, I think the pressure on the banks, right, to have, and I'm assuming what he's alluding to there, Gregory, is, the banks having to have X amount of reserve for every individual, for every account, right? They're trying to talk about easing that up a little bit, right, to where if they don't have to have as much in reserves, then money's a little cheaper, right? Because now I could give more out. And I think that will, and the mention of now they're buying, now with the quantitative easing at $40 billion or whatever it's supposed to be, I think that's a move in the right direction because, again, we saw rates falling before the Fed started cutting rates. So the Fed cutting rates is great, but mortgage rates from that standpoint sort of follow inflation, right? Or I like to look at oil prices as well as a little bit of a gauge there too. And so there's still some things to be done there. And I think this is why on the back end, Gregory, just from a lending standpoint, why companies like me do a majority of the business over the brick and mortar banks now, right? Because in fairness to those brick and mortar, they've got all these reserve requirements. They've got all these things that they've got to make sure that they have. So it's harder, right? Where you're a direct lender like me, let's face it, I don't get paid until the loan closes and it's packaged up and from that standpoint. So I think when you're looking at the money supply from that standpoint, I think if those things start to ease, it's going to create a better margin, right? So nobody opens their doors every day and says, let's go break even. So that margin, that quantitative easing like we had in 20 and 21, when we had all that back then, that's why the rates were so low. We're not talking about getting back to that, but if the banks have that ability to open that up a little bit and flex their muscles a little bit, I think that's just going to be a benefit for the consumer. And when I say consumer, let's face it, I mean like small businesses, right? And private sector and hiring, stuff like that. So I think that's where some of that benefit's going to come from, in my opinion.
So you think a shift will happen once you get to 5.9%?
Yeah.
Which should be, if we get 2 rate reductions, 2 quarter points, you're there, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And now, let's just put that to paper. Let's make that visual for folks, though.
Okay.
Where we're at right now at 6.25. Oh, my God. 5.99. That I hear it all the time. Hey, let me know when rates hit get to 6. Well, if I come on here and tell you rates are at 6 and I don't say 5.99, then I'm just a nincompoop, right? So, I'm never going to come on and go, hey, rates are at 6. I promise you I'm going to say 5.99, okay? But a $300,000 loan today at 6.25, your principal and interest payment's $1,847. That 5.99, that is the trigger, right? And they've done pull A. People want 6%, right? They want that 5. So a $300,000 loan at 5.99, your payment's $1,796. So it's a $50 difference in payment. But when that competition, Gregory, ramps up, it's not going to be the same amount of buyers. And when all of a sudden Gregory's got Gregory, all these people that decided to delist their house and they relist, you think they're going to relist it for the same thing they had before? No.
They're wanting to be higher.
They're going to want more.
Yeah.
So let's say at 5.99 that house is only 310. Well, hey, you're fired up because I can afford it now. I'm at 5.99. Well, that $310,000 house at 5.99, the payment's $1,856. So it actually costs you $9 more a month to wait. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that cumulative, right? Those folks who have bought and been brave, and we've talked about this over the last couple years. Man, they're just building that compounding, and your payday's coming. But that interest is just growing. That equity is growing. I am not seeing Gumbo winning at I am not seeing short appraisals, Gregory, when people are buying houses. No appraisals are coming in short. Appraisals are coming back for more. So what does that tell you, right? I mean, so, I'm not sitting here going, listen, oh, gosh, man, Dwayne, what's the biggest thing you're seeing in housing? Well, Gregory, we just can't get appraisals. Everybody's asking too much. Not at all. If I told some of the sellers what their houses are appraising for at the closing table, they'd probably be like, what are we doing here? Relist it.
Stop.
Right? Yeah.
Stop.
And the listing agent's like, I don't want to know. I'm like, not that we tell them, but they like, I don't want to know.
Well, what is the point is whatever happened, both people are at the table.
That's right.
And that's what got them there is that day of acceptance on both sides, buying and selling.
Yeah.
Accepted the deal. It doesn't matter what the appraisal came in for a few weeks later and so forth. It is what got them there to that point. Two happy people. Because if you're not happy, why are you why did you sign?
That's right. And that's why, again, when rates go down, and we're right there. When rates go, we're talking about 0.25% is going to unlock everything.
It's a mental shift.
It's just going to mentally shift everything, and the whole market has. We're not going to have a 20 and 21 all over again from a standpoint of the volume, because some people who have 2.5% just aren't going to sell, right? And I get that, but that person that's got 4% at 599, well, now I can move closer to family. I'm out. For sale. Put a for sale sign. And it's going to be just like you're saying. It's going to be a mental shift, and when that happens, and we're very close. And I think next year at this time when we're sitting here, doing our final show of 2026 together, we're going to go, all right, well, either the rates didn't do what they didn't do for whatever unknown reason was, right, Gregory? Who knows? We don't, never know. Or rates did what we hoped, and now that we're in that 5% range, since we've seen that 5% range kick in, here's the volume, here's the difference.
Well, we've got a few more minutes, so for those thinking or putting off or wanting to wait for that 599, here's a few thoughts on that. This time of year, there's less competition. You got less buyers out there. They're distracted. Doesn't mean they're not wanting to buy, but they're dealing with Christmas and other things going on right now. And you might have a bit more motivated sellers, builders as well as individuals. Like, yeah, I want to move that property. So you get out there and find you a deal. So advantages of buying at year end is fewer buyers. Holiday slowdown means less competition. Motivated sellers. Homeowners want to close before winter. Builders need to meet quotas. So there's some motivated sellers out there. You go find them. Stronger negotiation, more leverage for price cuts, closing costs, credits, or upgrades. Tax benefits, deducting mortgage interest rate and property taxes for the current year. And then builder incentives. Builders offer deals to clear inventory. So that's a few ideas of why you might want to get out here and, if you got your presents all wrapped up, plans for your New Year's party, might want to call your realtor and say, hey, what kind of deals are out there? Is there something with 3,500 square feet or 2,500 square, whatever it is you're looking for? Kind of like, can I buy me a home here in the next few weeks?
Yeah. I mean, it's all about timing. No doubt about it, for sure.
Your rules at this point haven't changed. They've got to get pre-approved.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, Gregory, what's happening right now, and we see it, and I get it, for those who are focused on Christmas and the holidays, who aren't like, hey, let's find a deal. Maybe they didn't budget. People fall in love with me in February. They don't need me right now, right? I'm that person that, hey, ignore him, don't pay attention to him. I don't want to hear about buying a house. I don't want to think about it. I become a lot more attractive in February when the December statements come out and hit at the end of January, right? All that, because Santa Claus is undefeated. And when they get those statements in, whether it's a refinance or New Year's resolutions start kicking in, right? So, if you're starting to put together that roadmap, that's where you want to start discussing, hey, what are some of those goals going to be? What is your timeline so we know what we're working with? Getting that credit in, making sure that credit's in order. So that way, once you're pre-approved, that offer is going to put you ahead, because the competition, we are seeing it, right? The trend is up, and we are seeing it. It is not one home buyer versus one home owner anymore. It's a couple home buyers versus a homeowner. And I have heard more now, or of lately, of, hey, yeah, they took another offer, versus they countered with this offer and we're not going to accept it, right? And why is that? Because demand is up. So it's getting pre-approved. It's knowing what your budget. So we don't like surprises over here at Mortgage Gumbo. We just don't like surprises. So know exactly what it is. So you know insurance, Gregory, taxes. What area do you want to be in? Is that a flood zone? Do you want to buy a condo? Had somebody had to learn the hard way this week. We pre-approved them for $300,000. They went and looked at a condo. Well, a condo is a lot less because we didn't budget in $400 a month for condo dues. Right? So that's a big difference. We got to have those conversations when we're making those discussions. So that's where the pre-approval part comes into play versus finding out after the fact when it comes to buying a home. It's not buying those gumballs. And for those old enough to remember, hey, Mom, Dad, give me a penny, give me a nickel, and I want the red gumball, and then you get the yellow one, and you're like, can I get another one? No, we're buying a home. We got to get it right. We got to get it right the first time for you. And
I think there's a couple parts to that. I think if you've been out there and tried to buy or something, might be time to circle back. It might be good timing to check back in or look at that house and see if they want to give you that few thousand off you were looking for. Yeah. Rates haven't changed much in the past couple months from what Dwayne has said. We're expecting sometime next year too. And if you're thinking about buying, you might want to start getting your ducks in a row. Work with a realtor. Go talk to Dwayne about getting pre-qualified so that you're ready to go forward there. I don't think you're going to have 100 buyers show up at a house, but there are people looking, and we've got a slow period, so maybe you can get a head start. I think it's a good time for folks to reach out to you and be optimistic about next year. And I think things are going to continue to get better, and I do think we get to that 5.9 that you're looking for, which then you're telling the listeners, if you're thinking about doing it, you're going to have some more competition from buyers because more are going to come out the woodwork.
Yep. And what we don't want, Gregory, is we don't want that you do find that house that fits everything and you're not ready to make a move on it. Right? That one that pops up and then you're not ready. We don't want that happening to you.
How do they reach you, Dwayne?
Very simple. Just go to mortgagegumbo.com. Mortgagegumbo.com. Merry Christmas, my man, to you and everybody.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll see you on the flip side, Dwayne.
You got it, sir.
Have a great week. This is Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. You hear the music? We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with Hour 2.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
I started my retirement about 5 years ago, and I truly am late in life.
Would I be better to just withdraw the money out of my TSP and pay that mortgage off?
My problem is I have champagne taste in a beer sour. What is a balloon note?
Is that cutting it too close?
So will I still be eligible for Medicare?
Is there anything better I can do with the money I transferred into the Roth from my 401k? My goal is to retire at age 60. I'm 54 right now.
Hey, I have a 9-year-old son, and he's got probably $2,500 in. Is there anything we can invest it in?
And I just started a 401k a little late in life.
Then I should be like 10%.
Now, how far in advance do you recommend that someone goes to visit the Social Security office?
I want some money in a casino playing poker.
Gregory Ricks and Associates, 504-832-9200 or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
The Ricks Report with Gregory Ricks.
If you do not have money set aside, you do not have retirement assets, you don't have significant savings, you think, well, when should I turn on Social Security? I'll answer that for you right now. You should probably work as long as you possibly can and as much as you can, because that means you defer Social Security as long as you can up to age 70. And you can keep working past that. That's fine. But at age 70, you have to turn it on because you've maximized it there. And you've created the largest possible payment, and you're going to need all of that.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks, Saturday mornings at 10 on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Find us on the Winning at Life app or GregoryRicks.com. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
News Talk 99.5 WRNO FM, New Orleans, comes from the Mortgage Gumbo Studios.
Your locally trusted home loan lender, MortgageGumbo.com.
Returning fire. I'm Paul Stevens, Fox News. Dozens of ISIS targets hit by the U.S. yesterday.
The U.S. launching retaliatory strikes in Syria in response to last weekend's killing of 3 Americans. The U.S. hit more than 70 sites targeting ISIS fighters, infrastructure, and weapons sites. 2 Iowa National Guard members and a U.S. civilian interpreter were killed last Saturday. They were in eastern Syria as part of a coalition fighting ISIS.
And that's Fox's Chanley Painter. The Pentagon not saying how many people have been killed by those Friday strikes. Jordan, though, confirming that its Air Force did take part in those attacks. The Justice Department's push to release all of its files connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking cases, drawing fire for glitches on the website, missing documents, and plenty of redactions.
The documents are not labeled with any great detail. There are plenty of photographs, but many have no names, dates, or location. And context is really empty in some of them. Some of the photos are of mature content. Now, there are several photos of former President Bill Clinton within the first few documents. He's recognizable, unlike many others in many photos. But the photos of Clinton don't have any context. Now, there are some photos with Clinton and other faces blacked out. DOJ says that is to protect any potential victims. One of the photos shows the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, sitting around a table, but again, no context is provided.
And that is Fox's David Spunt. New York GOP Congresswoman Elise Stefanik ending her bid to become New York State's next governor and also saying she will not seek re-election to Congress. In a message posted to X, Stefanik citing her family as the main reason for stepping out of the 2026 race to unseat Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul. After ramping up for months, Stefanik officially declared her candidacy for governor in November. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. You're listening to Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks. I am Gregory Ricks, your host. We've been doing this show for, I'll just call it 15 plus years. Long darn time. I always go back to when I thought about doing this. I threw an idea out there. Yeah, I'd like to do a live radio show. And then I had people from iHeartRadio reach out to me about doing this show. And I'm like, live? Doing it live? And taking callers? I'm like, I don't know about that. And then I actually declined it until Mike Scott out of Miami came up and talked me into doing the show. And here we are 15 plus years later. And here at the year end of 2025 and resetting to next year. I'll go ahead and share a change with you for 2026 as the show will be from 10 to 12 in 2026. I did ask for a change a few months back. I'd been thinking about it longer, and I wanted to reduce the amount of on-air time on Saturday. And I get off at noon on Saturdays starting in 2026. So if you kind of like, well, I can always catch Gregory. He's on for 3 hours. I'll just listen to his third hour. I like his third hour. Well, there's not going to be a third hour. And actually, if you tune in at noon, Dwayne Stein is moving up his show to fill in that hour which I'm happy about because Dwayne and I are pretty tight, and I wanted to make sure that was handed off to him. So we've kind of worked with iHeart on a couple of adjustments. I'm not sorry I'm stealing his thunder because he's excited about that move up there, but that's kind of what we put together, and hopefully my audience loves it. But it narrows the content and the focus of 2 hours that we're doing from 10 to 12 in 2026. And you've probably noticed you're hearing best ofs on hour 3 the past few weeks or so, and that's kind of why I think after almost 16 years of doing the show on Saturdays, I kind of deserve the third hour off. Made me feel better about that. So if there's some feedback, any questions you have, any thoughts as listeners, and hopefully you like it, you give us feedback. You could reach out to the show. You can email us info@gregoryricks.com there. But we are streaming live over on Facebook as well. And what's really important is our YouTube channel. It's kind of like YouTube is so evolving. And I go back to when we started the show over 15, well, when I kind of go conceptually, we were working on getting it going 16 years ago. And, you know, there was not all this streaming and online viewing and smartphones. What is that? Yeah, there's a lot of history there. But then streaming evolved and video streaming, and we've kept up on those changes and adding that over the years. But YouTube is becoming such a ridiculous resource for learning, catching up on news, watching TV, watching sport. NFL is running games on YouTube. Now here, you know, these award shows, you see deals being done. Well, this is no longer airing on ABC, but next year it's going to be on YouTube. You know, country music awards on YouTube. It's just, you're going to see more online. I don't think traditional television and cable goes completely away. But there might be more cross integration of that because I believe people have different ways of consuming information. Our audience has multiple ways because they don't have where it used to. Well, Gregory's on 10. Like, get me the coffee. I got to listen to the show. Well, he also knows the replay's happening when we go off the air. Oh, you can replay it at midnight tonight if you want to, or next week, or like, you know, I just catch up with all his stuff at the end of the month. You know, there's so many ways. And now, like Chris that we've brought on board to help us with the rollout of our new updated podcast, and he's been putting together videos and such for us. So he's also building like short snippets on there, kind of like what's the best parts of the show. I'll call him the AI of the show. Kind of, he's kind of like pull it together and, well, here's the best stuff of that 2 hours condensed into 15 minutes. Maybe, I don't know. That might be too small a bite there, but it's kind of the things I'm excited about that we're rolling out for next year, and we've come a long ways with that. So what I'd like you to do is, if you just check on your phone, go over there and stream, make a comment on our YouTube channel, sign on, get used to watching it there, because we're going to be running a podcast, and we'll give you more information about that we're working on. And I guess I'm kind of the hold up on that, which is okay. But we're going to get that going also, along with what we do on Saturdays as well, and provide more content, just like the educational classes we're rolling out on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and on the North Shore of the New Orleans area. North Shore of New Orleans area means like Mandeville, Covington, Madisonville, Lacombe, those areas. So we're going to have some of that for you to get resources. Of course, we've got an office up there, and we've got an office in Gulfport and our Metairie office as well. We've been doing educational events, and I was looking through the content that we've put together. We still got to go through some compliance reviews and some tweaks for that, but I am really excited about that content and our relationships with Jude Heath, Dwayne Stein, and Wes Blanchard is going to continue as well on guests on the show. And because of the podcast, there's other people that we're lining up to give you some different takes on things that we're adding to that podcast, that you'll get to hear them on the Saturday show as well when you tune in for that as well. And this is about the resources so you can be the best person with your money. Without further ado, I've got Jude Heath here in studio. He's excited to be here, and I was glad to have you on this show with us as well. You and I've been talking about, we've got some other stuff we're talking about rolling out next year that your firm and my firm, we've been in talks about. So I'm not going to open that present yet. There, it's a little early, but even on the break between hours, I was talking about a couple things and some tweaks. Because look, so I think one of these things really is a big deal, but we got to be careful not to overload our firms, because I think there's going to be some excitement about what we're going to roll out and make available for the public. There, it's a good thing. But you're excited about this year-end. I'm glad we've given you some excitement. We like some year-end tax savings. So, Jude, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gregory. Yes, I certainly am. And, this week was full of what I call proactive tax savings from both of our firms. And it was really nice to get some phone calls from your staff saying, hey, we've looked at this client and we think they're perfect prime for a Roth conversion. We think that can really help them. And if I did the tax return last year, 2024, I pull it up and I say, you're right, and give the call to the client. The client's like, yeah, that's a slam dunk. And so, we pay the taxes on the Roth conversion and get it all done before the end of the year. And I was telling Gregory during the break that, boy, we just don't see that. We don't see the shared care of the client from both of our angles, and the proactiveness of making the phone call, your team making the phone call, setting it up, looping us in, we confirm it. It's all for the good of the client. And so I was just pleased as punch several times just to witness that, and it was your team that was doing it. And so I knew it was top down. I knew that you guys were setting this up as just another service model that our firms can help our clients in their financial betterment.
It is important planning to talk about taxes. It's one of our core pillars. When you talk about retirement planning, it's important you've got to have investment management there, subject to your risk tolerance and subject to having success, and building time in for your money to grow, knowing that it's not a straight line slope upward. There are some dips and some deep valleys at times, but it doesn't need to scare you off, scare you away, or get you to opt out and miss the future success. Where's the market going to be 20 years out? Much higher than it is today. Why do I say that? Because you look at any 20-year period out of the past, say, 85 years, the market's always higher. If you look at 10-year periods, there's a lower probability of that, where on the 20, it's 100%. So now it's important to have good investment management and invest in a way that you can keep along the path and succeed. Also in retirement planning, we have to talk about income planning and make sure you have the income capability to succeed throughout retirement. And another thing that helps all of that is tax efficiency. And we want to save on taxes. And one of the great gifts we have is tax-free opportunity on income. Not just tax savings, but tax-free income, tax-free growth in accounts. What are we talking about? Roth IRAs. You know, I like to tell a story of compounding, and it's just like, what if you only convert $100,000? I'd like you to convert a lot more, but what if it's all you can do? And let's say you're 57, and we do 33 1/3,000 a year for 3 years. Okay, you've converted $100,000 there, and hypothetically, it grows at 7.2%. You know, we like the simple math right there at the top of your head. How often does it double? Every 10 years, the rule of 72. So 100,000 would go to 200,000 at age 70. If you just let it ride for another 10 years, that 200,000 now goes to 400,000. That takes you from 60 to 70 to 80. So once again, 200 to 400,000. If you let it ride another 10 years, you're at 800,000. If you're alive, great. You've got more tax-free money. Say, well, I don't think I'll make it because that's the question. Well, I don't know they'll be around that long. Well, it's leave on money then. And you're likely, if you're going to leave money behind, what's the best qualified money to leave behind?
It's a Roth, of course.
It's a Roth. Because if it's not a Roth, if you're leaving at traditional IRA, with the money from your traditional 401k behind, it's going to be taxed on distributions, and it has to be spent down under current IRS rules within 10 years from date of death. And then it's got to be a whole strategy about equalizing it, because they could just take the RMDs and all of a sudden year 10, it's a balloon payment that's ugly. And you're leaving behind it to your kids in their highest tax years. But if it's a Roth, it can continue to percolate. Where at 400,000 goes to 800,000. Or if you leave them 800,000, it can go to 1.6 million based on the 7.2 hypothetically. There, and they don't have to take RMDs, but they do have to take it all out. The free ride, the tax-free growth ends at the end of 10 years from the date of death. And I think that's why Roth should be a focus, but not just for those retiring. It's a great opportunity because so many people have money, and it's like we don't have to eat the whole elephant. And you remember about how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, I don't want to eat the whole elephant. Okay, well, let's do 33 1/3,000. This Roth, 100,000 of your 400,000 over the next few years, and call it good. We got some people like, oh, I how can I do it all? We can look at the math on that. Your thoughts? I could just keep going. You know, I'm excited about this like you are.
Well, I think the key thing that you brought up was fear. And I think that's the main thing that you and I really do best is pave pathways, unlock, and show people the way. Whether folks take advantage of it, whether they're too scared to flip the switch or pull pull the trigger, or whatever phrase you want to use. But we've got our ideas, and we know you, and we can help, and we suggest, and we encourage, not just for you and your wealth, but also for your children. It could be a generational change. You could set your family up. And that's what really, I know, Gregory, that's really what gets us tickled at this point. He and I are going to be just fine. We do well at what we do because we do great work. We love it when we see those that we can help take advantage of the things that we can offer and do something really great for them and their family. And, it's interesting, like Gregory, I'm starting to have some of my children start to think about whether they want to join our firm. One already has. And I mentioned to him that, there's a lot of buzz around about AI and can AI replace tax preparation and all that. And, I just said, you're just getting started out here. What do you think about that? And he introduced me to a concept that I hadn't heard before. Apparently it's a generational thing. He said, well, Dad, we just call them clankers. Those machines are clankers, and they can't make your decision. And I started thinking about people like Gregory and I, and just our firms and the people that we employ. Of course, what separates us is that we all have hearts. Now, obviously, clankers don't have hearts, but we care about your success. And look, this Roth conversion idea, I was thrilled when I started getting phone calls from Gregory's people about our clients, their clients. Some I hadn't met before. They might be clients. But that's just one instance of many, many throughout the days and weeks and months and years of working with our firms, where it's really for the financial improvement and betterment of your family.
Clankers. Chris, you're familiar with that? Yeah, look, I already pulled it up. I asked AI, and I didn't ask it this way, but I'm going to just keep it clean. What the heck is a clanker? And AI says clanker, and you're really talking about AI, so AI is describing itself here. Clanker is a derogatory slang term for robots and AI popularized from Star Wars, where clone troopers called battle droids this. I don't even remember that from Star Wars. And recently exploded in use online to express disdain, anxiety, or resentment towards increasingly common AI and automated machines, reflecting societal's unease about terminology's impact on work and culture. Okay, clankers. I do think AI is an important part of going forward, but, just from the standpoint, what we've evolved to in a world of comfort is like, where have I seen that actor before? Or what car did... You could just go ask Google a question and it's pulling up something, and then you can figure out before. But now with AI, you don't just get a web page list or something. It just gives you all this information. And then really what you've got to do is ask the right questions. There's an excellent book regarding AI by a friend of mine, Jeff Woods, Harnessing AI to Make Faster, Smarter Decisions. What I see AI is, how can it make a better you? And I've got also on my computer here, you can kind of see I've got notes on my laptop, and what Jeff talks about is context, role, interview, and task. And that's to make better decisions. I was at a conference last week, and we were having a discussion about the future. And we had a futurist speaking to us and was talking about what changes are coming. And some people like, oh my gosh, you hear the scary thing. Well, AI is putting people out of work. There's going to be droves of unemployed people. and such. And I was reading something the other day, and it's so, well, what should you do? And somebody commented, learn to weld. And then somebody else said, maybe not, and showed one of the Tesla robots welding. And I think we're going to have more work opportunities, more jobs, less unemployment, but there's going to be so much help to be better at what you do and free you up to do the things you want to do. What it might be is you might get to enter a job that you want to do, not what you have to do. So from that standpoint, I don't think you kids have to worry, because here's one thing from a standpoint, you can kind of say, even that where I don't think we're being replaced on our side as advisors and stuff, because of what I think one of the most important things about working with an advisor is be able to sit down and have discussions. You need a sounding board. You need somebody gathering ideas, knowing strategies, how do they apply to you? We all do thinking time in different ways, and maybe most people do a little bit or don't realize what that is and what that's for. And there is a shift we've made, something that's pretty powerful change we've made in the company recently. And my wife Stacy recently said, where did that come from? I said, I do a lot of reading, and I was doing some thinking, and then I did some thinking time, and that's a protected time where you just sit and think through this topic you're wanting to. And I said, combined with, and this has to do with client fees, and I'm not going to get into detail. It's not that this is not the appropriate space, but that's kind of one-on-one for clients. But it's kind of a game changer in how we're looking at it. But thinking about how clients think about fees, how we as a firm think about fees. And I was reading some stuff, and I can't even pinpoint it, but it come to, wow. And this helps them feel better about it. And with that said, these are discussions you have. Hey, that's not doing that for me. I still got to use my brain and come up with that. And we got to sit down and have discussions, and people, how they think, and help them reason through stuff. You're not sitting down having a discussion like that and dealing with people that it's experience and knowing somebody that you trust. And we develop relationships with our clients, just like you do from a tax standpoint, ours from all the areas that we deal in, the financial pillars out there to help them. And what this is a relationship. We're touching bases with them quarterly, seeing them at least once a year to multiple times a year. And those discussions from previous visits continue on or evolve, especially like where we've come up with ideas, some of the strategies for Roth conversions, where we're proactively reaching out, like this is a window of opportunity. And that's what you're feeling there is these initiatives that we do. You're not having your AI robot call you up and, hey, I've been working on something for you. I know you're not aware of this, but we figured out some stuff here we want to talk to you about. AI's not doing that for you. We are doing that for you. And do we use that to help us in thinking time? Probably so. Why not? It's much more in depth than just asking Google a question. I'll be quiet. I'm going to let you talk for a minute.
No, I agree with you on all that. And I was just thinking about this one client. We had a conversation, and I know him well. I sat with him, his wife, his adult son, and he had heart surgery a couple of years back, and it's coming to tax time. He's had a great year. And the age-old thing is, well, I'll just get a truck. And I saw Gregory's laughing. I saw the wife cringe. And that I'll continue the story on the other side of the break.
I like this topic. I might have something to share on it with my wife's reaction, too. What? A truck? You're listening to Winning at Life. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. I've got Jude Heath in studio with me. We're going to take a short break. Be right back with unbelievable stories to tell.
Ask Gregory is a financial podcast from the guys who bring you Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Could this be your Social Security, your 401k, pension, lump sum, your debt, student debt, credit cards?
You all are so good. I've listened to you for years. Sometimes I'll pull up to the side of the road and just listen.
Find the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
Gumbo Nation, you did it again. Thank you. 10 plus years on air, Mortgage Gumbo Dadcam has grown because of your trust in me as your local preferred lender with all your home loan needs. My recent recognition as a national top lender is awesome, but being your local lender is what matters to me and why I'm so thankful. I promise to continue to earn your trust in making your needs my priority. Visit MortgageGumbo.com.
If you like money, you'll love the Winning at Life app. On the Winning at Life app, you can hear the Ask Gregory podcast, where you'll find episodes based on a financial topic. So if you're looking for help on a specific situation, there's a good chance you'll find it on the Ask Gregory podcast, including episodes on 401ks, taxes, stocks, Social Security, gold, and whether or not you should buy an RV. Hear the Ask Gregory podcast on the Winning at Life app, your wallet's favorite app.
Less than half of Americans have drawn up a will. If you don't have one, you know you need to get one. But what if you do have a will? Is it up to date? Has anyone in your family been married, divorced, or passed away? Have any new family members been born or adopted? Don't leave your loved ones in a bind. Call me and we'll make you a plan or update your existing plan. Hi, I'm Wes Blanchard, an estate planning attorney in Metairie. What's your plan? Find me at wjblanchardlaw.com.
Oh, Rover, you have fleas again? Prevent fleas and ticks from setting up shop in your backyard. Those bloodsuckers can bite up to 400 times a day and carry nasty diseases like typhus and tapeworms. Give Rover some relief and contact Mosquito Joe. Their mosquito control services also kill and prevent fleas and ticks. Let Mosquito Joe be your first line of defense against those blood-sucking pests. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com. NewOrleans.MosquitoJoe.com.
Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks is a copyright of Down South Strategies for the private use of our audience. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without express consent is prohibited. For podcasts, show information, and contacts to our sponsors, go to winningatlife.com or download the Winning at Life app. If you have a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory. We are Winning at Life with Gregory Ricks.
Fox News, I'm Paul Stevens. ISIS targets in Syria hit Friday by the U.S. in a retaliatory strike.
The president following through on a pledge to strike the terrorist group after the ambush attack on service members in Palmyra. Of Operation Hawkeye Strike, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says this is not the beginning of a war, it is a declaration of vengeance.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. More files released Friday by the Justice Department connected to the late convicted child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
It includes photos of famous names like Bill Clinton, Mick Jagger, Michael Jackson, and Diana Ross, as well as heavily redacted documents, including one labeled masseuses with 254 names blacked out. The photos and some documents were released without context, and legal experts caution just because a person's in the file doesn't mean they're implicated in a crime.
Fox's Chanley Painter. America's listening to Fox News.
You're listening to Winning at Life. I'm your host, Gregory Ricks. I have Jude Heath of J. Heath Company CPAs in studio with me. We were kind of chatting on break about clankers. AI's not listening, is it? Chris
Never.
was saying, I am not going to use that term with AI because 20 years from now, they might be hunting me down. I don't know. I'm going to tell you what, I'll have my robots that I'll have programmed to protect me from the AI hating on me. Yeah. And I shared last week's show, the leadership conference I was at San Diego recently, and Pierre Diamandis spoke, and he's a futurist, and I've got a recording of that because I kind of do that when I listen to things so I can go back. But he gave it so much content. But the broad strokes is AI is going to be significant, but better. It's not going to be some catastrophic thing where it puts everybody out of work and all. It's going to enable more. And then the coming robots are going to be significant. You're going to be able to acquire it for less than a car, lease it for $300 a month, buy one for $20,000, and it's going to assist us in so many ways and make life better. I've told this for a while where people kind of talk about Tesla and the cars and all. I said, those cars are nothing. What Tesla's going to be known for is the robots that's coming. I imagine 5 years from now, I'll probably have 5 or 6 of them. A couple at the office, one at the house, one at the farm, one going wherever I go, help me out. Who knows? You just don't know out there, you know. I've got to move some office furniture this week. You know what I wished? I wish I had a couple darn robots right now to handle it and make it real easy. Right now, I got to get some humans to do it. And they're kind of grumpy about it. Robots, they going to complain? No. Long as I don't call them clankers or something, they'll be fine. So now I've learned something not to do. I'm joking about it, and I'm already going to be in trouble. So you're talking about a truck when we went to break. So I'll get back on the directive of the show here is to talk about Roth conversions and such. But what's important is us in our roles to help people reason through, adapt new ideas, adjust to change for the better. We don't give people ideas, oh yeah, come on in, let's make your life worse. Let's make it better. Make it financially better. Have an abundant life is what we want. From my standpoint, working with folks looking towards retirement or in retirement is having abundance in retirement and success and not have the worry. If you're worrying, you do need to see us. Let us help you tackle those worries and make those go away. But pick back up your story about the truck.
Yeah, so
you can start at the beginning.
Yeah, okay. So this fella has a air conditioning business and had a great year, another great year, owes more taxes, hadn't paid any in, and makes the comment, we're sitting around the table with him, his wife, and his adult son. And, I just passe. I'll get a truck, take care of those taxes. and I know I've been knowing them for years. And just like we've said, when you connect with someone, you can make a hard suggestion on something that's better for them than the path that you've seen them go down before. And I said, look, what you're going to pay in a down payment to drive that new truck off, and I know you're going to save a little bit in taxes, but there's a pretty good chance your wife's going to need that money when you're gone. I don't know when you're leaving. I don't really even know if you're leaving before she is. I just think that you look at the numbers, you look at the averages. The averages are you are. And then if you leave her, she ain't going to want your truck, man. I said, why don't we set up a Roth? That's really what she's going to want, is some choices and some options as she gets. Well, then I'm paying taxes. Yes, you're right. But what you're doing is you're doing something good for her. And her son was there. I guess he's about 30. I said, you really giving him a break too, because you know he's not going to let anything bad happen to his mother. So, help him, help her, just put some away. And yeah, okay, we hadn't paid any taxes all year. You've had a great year. You're going to pay a little bit of taxes. But for the down payment of a truck, let's just start the process of setting something up for your family when you can't work anymore.
Well, a truck might make a dent in that tax bill, but it doesn't make it go away. And you can't write 100% off of the truck purchase immediately, right?
Correct. But what
I get his simple answer is, okay, yeah, let's create an expense, but that doesn't completely solve it.
No, and he'd have a note, and that's not really what she wants. I've been with them for years, and I kind of think, as maybe younger too, but definitely when we get older, we need to make decisions for the betterment of each other.
I like that phraseology. He might want to pick up on paying the taxes as you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I kind of like paying it every month. My philosophy is, it's not my money. I don't want to see it in my cash report. That money's got to go off of my report there. It's somebody else's money, and I can't keep it. With that in mind, we're always looking at strategies and what can we do to reduce that and make good decisions. I know my wife wouldn't like the answer, well, let's buy another vehicle. She already said, what her response is, well, how many do you need? You already have enough. Okay. I get that. But back to Roth IRAs. Any thought you have? I've got some 31 questions here regarding Roths. I'm not going to throw all these in your lap, but here's one. Do Roth conversions count toward modified adjusted gross income limits for Roth IRA contribution eligibility? That's a big question there. I have the answers too, as well.
So the question is, does recognizing the income on the conversion of an IRA to a Roth create MAGI? And it does.
Yeah, the tax code makes it clear that Roth conversions do not count towards MAGI for Roth contribution eligibility. It is also clearly illustrated in publication 590, page 40 of the 24 publication includes a worksheet for modified adjusted gross income. So once again, neat question, a lot of information there for one reason to work with Jude Heath as well as our firm.
And so that to be clear, the Roth limit, the Roth AGI limit, the conversion is not added to your income and would put you over the hurdle of the Roth income limit. That was the question. Okay.
Yeah. And we, could even go right down to what page. Line 2 is for any income from the Roth conversion. This amount is immediately subtracted from adjusted gross income on line 3. So forth. So we could get you through those that particular situation. Here's the question I like. What is the sweet spot age window for Roth conversions?
I've always thought after 50.
Yeah, to even narrow it more, between ages 59 and a half and 73 is often referred to as the sweet spot for IRA withdrawals and Roth conversions. This is the time when the tax rules allow the most flexibility. At age 59 and a half, the 10% early distribution penalty no longer applies. Required minimum distributions, RMDs, do not start until age 73. The sweet spot is a great time to consider a Roth conversion. Converting prior to age 63 has additional advantage of avoiding any impact on Medicare's income-related monthly adjustment amount. Most people do not know about this, the IRMA impact. If it is not discussed, and you should, if you're working with somebody and they're talking to you about that, and 63 is approaching, and the IRS kind of, IRMA doesn't look at year of, that's a 2-year delay on how that shows up there, but it's called IRMA for short. It's income related monthly adjustment amount, and it's going to impact your...
Well, you're going to be paying more Medicare.
Yeah, Medicare premiums there. So, but it is that window, just like when we are talking about when's a good time to start thinking about retirement. I was asked in an interview the other day is when do you think somebody should start working with a financial advisor? I think somebody of any, I'm going to preface this, but I think anybody of any age that's thinking about building wealth, the earlier the better to get the coaching, because what it is that you've got to take advantage of is compounding over time. And if you put it off, you can never get back those years you missed. So with that said, I think 50 and up is really important regarding planning, because you've got a decade to work on things. If you're going to do Roth conversions, you can start chipping away at it instead of, like, if you wait to 60, with it, you might having to be compressing it because of IRMA is an impact. Then you've also got RMDs heading your way that force, and you can't say, well, let's do a Roth conversion instead of me taking RMD. No, it don't work that way. So there is a sweet spot really in that. When should we really be? I think 50. If you kind of, what's the general time? 50. You should be looking at age 50. If you haven't, you've done it on your own. You need a sounding board. You need a tax partner. You need an investment advisor. Age 50 is kind of a good wider window to start that planning. I'd rather chip away at those things, but you should have already been compounding your money for 30 years or longer. And look, let's throw this in there. One of the greatest gifts that there's ever been given for investing has just happened. And that's for a newborn child to do what?
The Trump accounts.
Explain it.
So the Trump accounts are pretty amazing. So
I wish somebody put $1,000 in the S&P 500 for me when I was 6 months old.
Right, and parents can contribute, and employers can contribute, and it just turns out to be a gigantic fund when that child reaches age for not just education, but could be starting a business, could be buying a house. It's going to be a wonderful shot at the next generation having a leg up financially. And I think that is terrific for our country.
Yeah. So how much and how? Do you have details?
Well, you have to apply, and you get your $1,000. And then
from Uncle Sam.
From Uncle Sam. So that starts it, that seeds it, right? And then
free money,
and it goes in an S&P type fund. It grows along with the market, and then that your grandchildren, your grandparents can contribute. The employers can contribute $2,500, and it's
every year.
I've already seen it start to appear on paychecks. I've seen, because we're doing estimates right now, and so I've started to see pay stubs coming in with that note that they contributed to that employee's children's accounts.
Does it grow tax-free?
It does. It grows tax-free, and it's not taxed when you draw it out for the stated purpose, which right now is being said as college or further education, trade school, or starting a business, or purchase a first home.
Is there a limit to how much we can put into the kid's account?
Well, the $2,500 is the limit for the grandparents. I don't know what the parent limit is right now. And the $2,500 also is for the employers per employee. So if the employee has multiple children, then you split that through the accounts.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what has been our workaround in the past. If you've got a business, you could hire your kid to work so they have some earned income, so that money could then be put into a Roth account, because you got to have earned income for the contribution. And then, but they're not, you're not having a 6-month-old. Well, yeah, the 6-month-old sweeps the office every week. So, that isn't going to fly from that standpoint, but it is just an unbelievable opportunity. Now, I know this only has a few-year window for new accounts to be set up, but I think somebody's going to fix that to where it continues forward.
Well, the bottom line is we want to encourage our childbearing adults to have big families, and it needs to be financially available to them. And I think this is part of the solution.
Yeah, if parents file and fill out the new tax form, their child can get the $1,000 through the new Trump account program. Parents with a child that was born in 2025 or a child coming in 2026 will use IRS Form 4547 if they want to establish the savings plan. It is just huge. It's one of the greatest things ever done for a child going forward. When we talk about compounding and building tax-free wealth, imagine that for 60 years, like crazy. And some folks are at age 50 starting to save money. It's game changing for everybody out there. So, okay. So back, we were talking about the sweet spot on Roth conversion. So I got direct, because I'm excited about that thing for kids. Every little baby you see around, they got the chance to be wealthy just with that concept right there. But we've got to do something about retirement, and everybody should be looking at ways that they can get money in Roth accounts. And that's even if you're 30 or 40 years old. Your employer that you're working for, because of the changes in the catch-ups for those nearing retirement, rules changed, and now everybody's 401k should have a Roth option. And you should be revisiting how can you get some of your contributions going into Roth. Yeah, you're going to pay taxes on it. But look, it's going to grow for decades tax-free, and it comes out tax-free if the distributions are over age 59 and a half.
And I will tell you that from a mental perspective, as a person that does not like to pay taxes.
Oh, you don't? Neither do I.
It only hurts the first year, because we switched everything over to Roth 401k at our firm, and it just comes out of your paycheck and you live on a little bit less, but you know that you're doing everything through Roth 401k now, And you feel so much better when you're looking at your 401k saying, okay, that's not going to be taxed when I hit RMD age. So I've come up with this because people say, oh, I can't pay the taxes. But you can if you think about it, and it really does only hurt the first year. When you look at the W-2 and you're still paying taxes on your 401k contributions, but you just know as it grows, Rule of 72, through the years, compounding, greatest thing, and you just know that you're not going to have to pay taxes on that and when you withdraw it upon your retirement.
Yeah, and you need to work through the adjustment to that. And conceptually for me, I want to get everything I can in the Roth. I don't mind paying taxes on it now because of the compounding is going to be unbelievable of that tax-free opportunity in the future. Yeah, it hurts. And this is one of the other questions here. Can Roth IRA contributions still be recharacterized? What about conversions? And I'll give you the answer and then your thoughts here. IRA contributions can still be recharacterized. For example, an unwanted traditional IRA tax year contribution could be recharacterized to a Roth IRA or vice versa. However, Roth IRA conversions are no longer can be recharacterized. Roth IRA conversions are permanent and irreversible. And that's why it's really important to think through that you do that, because over the years I've had the meetings, and I just remember one couple in particular wanting to do a big Roth conversion. And I warned them. I said, because we'd project, show them what the tax return is going to look like. Oh, yeah, that's no problem. And when it came tax time, they were obviously a little bit bothered. And you know what they did? They recharacterized. And I knew they would, but we went through it. And now you better be darn sure on the amount you're wanting to convert, because you cannot undo it going forward. And I know another couple for memory, there's kind of two that stick out more, and they did that, like, what? Why is our tax bill so high? Well, you did a Roth conversion, and you can't undo it, but it's going to be they could afford it, but sometimes it's that sticker shock there. But you can't undo it now, so it does need to be methodical, thought out, and worked forward. Oh my gosh, hour two's winding down here. We got like a minute left. Jude, how do they reach you? Because folks are going to be wanting to call you up about doing Roth conversions next week.
So it's jheathcpa.com, 504-832-1873, or call Gregory's office.
Oh my gosh, it's been a pleasure doing this show for you this year. Merry Christmas.
You too.
Happy New Year. And y'all reach out to us at GregoryRicks.com if you need some help. Y'all have a great weekend.
If you've got a financial situation and you're not quite sure what to do, you better call Gregory.
I started my retirement about 5 years ago, and I truly am late in life.
Would I be better to just withdraw the money